London seems very insulated from the global recession and the Eurozone crisis right now. I think it may, in the coming year, see more distress. Currently, London, rather like the United States in a way, is a place where a lot of very rich global people stick their money and have their second homes. And so it's benefiting, I think, from that global 1%, really. I think the further you get out into Britain, which is another country, the harder the recession has hit and will continue to hit. And the danger, I think, and it's a real danger, is that they're caught in a debt trap, that cutting spending as dramatically as they have in the teeth of this increasing global gloom, rather than increasing revenues and lowering expenditures, is actually having the reverse effect. That it's so depressing the private sector that in fact revenues are going down and your debt is going up, and the more you cut, the more debt you get. The Greece nightmare, in other words. Most of the Brits seem to think they can struggle through. Unlike Americans, a bit of them, I think, relishes sticking through some ghastly blitz-like economic turmoil. But they definitely believe that the Eurozone crisis proves they were right never to have entered it. There's a certain amount of schadenfreude, mainly with respect to the French, which, again, is a kind of rivalry that the euro was supposed to get rid of and has only apparently intensified. And there's genuine fear that if the worst came to the worst, and again, what does one mean by that? A forced exit from the euro by Greece might be manageable, but if Portugal, Ireland, and Spain teetered, then Italy is obviously the big one. I think that's the one they have to save. And the question is whether Merkel really can domestically manage that and give up on the ECB, on her determination to stop the ECB becoming a lender of last resort, or whether she's going to play this game of brinkmanship until the very last minute. Whatever happens, the British are nervous. Obviously, the EU is their biggest trading partner by far. And the Treasury, I understand, thinks that if a fully fledged Eurozone crisis really began to happen, the British could see their GDP decline by up to 8% in 1 year. That's pretty terrifying news, which would, of course, collapse revenues and increase debt. So they are teetering, and they're hoping, against hope in a way, that they can somehow muddle through. And I think that's roughly the situation in Europe. Unfortunately, sometimes events take over, and that's, I fear, what might happen. On the other hand, it's not clear to see what else they can do. If they started spending vast amounts of money, they'd have to be borrowing more. The international system would then start selling pounds, and they would be in equal fix. They don't have the dollar. It reminds me, essentially, that the main, at this point, bulwark for the global economy is the United States, and the ability of the United States to get out of this recession, to start generating trade and jobs. And I think that's where people are now looking, because Germany isn't going to be expanding, even though its own economy is doing remarkably well, actually. It's losing its customers in the rest of Europe. It's up to the US, again, to save the global economy. But of course, our debt is also astronomical, and we're trying to muddle through just the same. But I have to say, they're quite relieved to have Obama in charge, and I think having him there reassures them somewhat. A little terrified of what they see out there as the alternative right now.